Chahal, Assistant Professor in Chemical Engineering Department at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. The subject that we are going to continue is petroleum refining and petrochemicals. So in this lecture, we will start a new chapter, that is thermal and catalytic cracking. So first of all, what is cracking? See, dissociation of high molecular weight hydrocarbons into smaller fragments with help of heat or catalyst, that is your cracking. So in yeast, you are converting your heavy weight molecules into smaller weight molecules or with the application of either heat or catalyst. Okay. Now this is very important unit of refinery because see, the heavy distillate, heavy products, okay, and the residue, they don't have very much that use. So what we are doing, you are trying to convert it into useful products. Okay, so we can say that the necessity of cracking is what? That you are converting your less valued or your unwanted fraction into commercially valued products, right? So that is your cracking. Now what are the types of cracking? So there are thermal cracking and catalytic cracking. Okay, so you can see the application in thermal cracking is what? Heat. Okay, whereas in catalytic cracking you are using your catalyst to enhance the process of dissolution of larger molecular weight hydrocarbons to small molecular weight hydrocarbon. So here you can see that in thermal cracking it happens at elevated temperature, right? The variables important are what? Temperature and pressure. Okay, so at high temperature, high pressure, or either high pressure, low temperature. So based on these variables, again your thermal cracking is divided. Okay, based on these parameters, your thermal cracking process goes on. Now the mechanism, okay, of cracking is what? Free radical reaction. Based on this reaction, your large molecular weight hydrocarbons is cracked into small molecular weight hydrocarbons. Now talking about catalytic cracking. So it's very simple, it occurs in presence of what? Catalyst. So your mechanism is what here? Carbonium ion. Okay. Whereas with reaction, your regeneration unit is also there because you are regenerating your catalyst. Right. Now thermal cracking. What is it? So it is a process of breaking down large compounds into small compounds with the help of at temperature and pressure. Okay. So at high pressure, high temperature, your operation is done. It involves cracking by applying high pressure and temperature. The temperature range is how much? 500 to 700 degrees Celsius. Okay. Then the pressure used is about how much? It can be up to 70 atm. Similarly, the types of thermal methods are what here? Wisp breaking, delayed coking. So what is this? That are the part of thermal cracking. Okay. Here operating condition like pressure and temperature are varying here. So your thermal cracking, your thermal degradation process, it is used to carry out wisp breaking, okay, gasoline production and delayed coking. Now, how cracking of different species occur? Okay, if you are talking about paraffin, then it cracks to give you alkane and alkene. Here you can see that long hydrocarbon, it dissociates to give you a alkene. Okay, ethene is what? Alkene and the alkane. Okay, so when your paraffin is subjected, always a unsaturated will be there. Second, you can see that olefins crack or dehydrogenate to give diolefin or an alkyne. So similarly, if cracking of olefins is happening, then you get your product as an alkyne or a diolefin. Besides, condensation also happens of small unsaturated. Okay, they condense to give you a big unsaturated. Like you can see that 2C3H4. Okay, it condensates to give you C6H6. A ring compound is formed. Again, it is what? Unsaturated, but a heavy one. So that was about olefin. Next is aromatic. How aromatic cracks? Okay, so here you can see that aromatic saturated ring, it cracks to give you unsaturated. Okay. The process is what? Dehydrogenation. A hydrogen molecule is taken out. So here you can see that it is a saturated one, right? CH3CH3, a saturated compound is attached to the benzene ring. It gives you an unsaturated. So that way your aromatics undergo cracking. Now talking about the mechanism of thermal cracking. Okay. Here we studied before also that the mechanism is what? By free radical reaction. Okay. Now your free radical reaction, it comprises of 3 steps, right? Initiation, propagation and termination. So what happens in initiation? First of all, your free radicals are formed. Okay, here you can see that C6H4, it dissociates to give you your free radicals. In propagation, these free radicals react with the fellow molecules and more amount of radicals are formed. So that is your propagation. Here you can see that C2H5, that radical, it reacts with your C6H4, excess reactant, okay, and a new species is formed, C2H6, a new species is formed and some more amount of radicals are formed. Okay, so this is what your propagation step. Here new species are also formed and new radicals are also formed. Last step is your termination step, okay, the end of your free radical mechanism. So you can see that your ions C2H5, sorry, your radicals C2H5 and CH3, these are some of the radicals which react to give you your final product. So this way you can see that the mechanism of thermal cracking happens. Now what are the properties of cracked material? First of all, the characterization factor decreases, boiling point, core point and viscosity decreases, unsaturation and aromatization increases. Of course, what is happening we saw. Just taking example of paraffin, okay, always one would be unsaturated will be there. So here you can see that unsaturation and aromatization has happened. Okay, your saturated ring will also convert into aromatic, whereas your paraffin, it will convert into olefin. Similarly, your olefin, your alkene, it will convert into alkyne, double to triple bond. So you can say unsaturation has been increased, right? Octane number increases. In first chapter only we studied that branching increases octane number. Okay, as you shift towards isomerization, aromatics and naphthenes, okay, octane number is increasing. Oxidation stability decreases. Of course, oxidation stability is associated with what? Unsaturates. Your double bond, triple bond. They are responsible for the oxidation stability. Okay, so that decreases because they are more prone to react. Okay, their reactivity increases. It means that. Now, the products have different properties because of the unsaturation, and the properties depends on the condition of cracking. So of course, as I told you, temperature, pressure, conditions, okay. So as you vary the conditions, so the properties of your cracked products would be again different, right? So the next topic is wisp breaking. Wisp breaking is the type of thermal cracking, okay. In wisp breaking operation, a mild thermal cracking is carried out. So you can say that the wisp breaking is a part of thermal cracking process, right? It produces naphtha, gas oil and a residue. So the end products are what? Naphtha, gas oil and residue. Wisp breaking basically breaks the long paraffinic side chains attached to aromatic structures. So its function is what? That it breaks the long chains attached to aromatics, right? Due to this, residue core point and viscosities are considerably reduced. Now this is the flow diagram of how your wisp breaking occurs. Okay, so here you can see that first of all your feed is sent to what? A furnace, then quenching occurs. It is then sent to the distillation column, from where your top product you get your what? Naphtha, and from the bottom product you get your residue, whereas from the middle you are taking out your middle distillate, that is your gas oil. So let's see in detail. It is carried out either in a coil or in a soaker. So there are two type of process again. Coil wisp breaking and soaker wisp breaking. Okay, when coil technology is used, the mild thermal cracking is carried out in furnace coil. Okay, so your coil technology, it is attached with what? Mild thermal cracking. And when soaker technology is adopted, then the cracking is carried out in a soaker that is kept immediately after furnace. So here you can see that this is your coil technology, because after furnace you are not having a soaker unit, right? Now, after cracking, the products are at high temperature. Okay, so you get your product at about what? 480 degrees Celsius. Okay, if your soaker unit is there, then it would be 430. So, after cracking, the products are cooled using quenching operation. Okay, now what is quenching here? See, quenching is direct heat transfer mechanism in which a hot stream is cooled with hydrocarbon or water to reduce the temperature of the system drastically. Okay, so from 480 to directly or drastically changing it, okay, into a very low temperature. So that is your quenching. Drastically you are reducing the temperature. Okay. So after quenching, the mixture is fed to the distillation column, which is supplemented with side column and a partial condenser. So here you can see from the figure that your distillation column, condenser is there and your side stripper is also there. So now from partial condenser, you get your naphtha. Okay, so your top product is what? Naphtha. The side column is there, which is again steam stripped. Okay, steam strip is what? As per your desired specification of your product. It is again a kind of a second distillation column, which again purifies your fraction. Okay, so that gives you gas oil. So your middle fraction is what? Gas oil. And your residue is what? Your visbreaking residue. Now the next process is Dubs to coil process. So this is again a mild thermal cracking process. Okay, it is a high temperature, high pressure process. It is used to obtain gasoline from heavy fraction. So you studied that in visbreaking. The products are obtained are what? Naphtha, gas oil and your residue. But Dubs to coil process, it comes into account. It means you are using thermal process, thermal cracking to obtain gasoline from your residue. Okay, so in gist you can say that Dubs to coil process is used to obtain gasoline from your residue via the cracking process. So this is the flow diagram of your Dubs to coil process, right? So let's see the process. First of all, the residue is fed to the fractionator. Here you can see that F stop. On the fourth column you are feeding your residue. Okay, it is then the volatile components are stripped off. Whatever the volatile components are there, they are taken out from the top product. In the gasoline you can see. The next step is the bottom residue of your fractionator goes to coil 1, and the operating condition of coil 1 is what? Temperature is 520 degrees Celsius and your pressure is 30 atmosphere. So you can see here from the bottom of fourth column, okay, from your fractionator, heavy oil, which is heavy, okay, residue, it goes to coil 1. The operating condition is what? Temperature is 520 degrees Celsius and your pressure is 30 atm. The next is that your light oil now goes to coil 2, which is again maintained at higher temperature, 550 degrees Celsius. Here you can see that the light oil, again it goes from your fractionator to coil 2. Okay. Now the cracked products from coil 1 and coil 2 goes to reaction chamber. So reaction chamber, your pressure is 15 to 20 atm, where it prevents from the coke formation. Right, you can see it goes to the third reaction chamber. Now the product is sent to the evaporator where fuel oil is obtained as bottom product. So from your reaction chamber it goes to evaporator, okay, where fuel oil is obtained as bottom product. So here you can see that from the fifth part, fuel oil is obtained from the bottom, whereas your top product, okay, it goes to the fractionator. The top product of what? Evaporator. So from the fractionator you get your high octane gasoline. So here you can see that from the fourth fractionator you get from the top your gasoline which has high octane value, right? So that was about your Dubs to coil method to obtain high octane gasoline from your residues using what? Thermal cracking. Now the next topic is delayed coking. Okay, so delayed coking. So what is coking? First of all, it is your extreme thermal cracking process. Okay, it means the temperature here, it is very large as compared to the visbreaking which we saw. Okay, so the temperature range is how much? About 480 to 510 degrees Celsius. Okay, now about the process. The heated feed is fed to the coke drum and coke is formed. Okay, so what you are trying to do, you are trying to extract valuable products from the residue. Okay, here we are talking about the final residues. From that we are going to take out the important products. Okay, the lighter products are withdrawn from the top section of the delayed coker. After coking, the coke drum is full of coke and it is then removed using water jets. Okay, now as you are treating your further residue, okay, the residue after treatment, that coker, it will give you the final non-volatile component, that is coke. Okay, now of course deposition will occur, hence you have to clean it with the water jets. Now this process consists of multiple furnaces or coke drums. Okay, usually the coal is heated at lower temperature for shorter periods of time, which removes water and other byproducts, right, thereby increasing the overall time spent. So hence you can see that delayed coking. Why the delayed is there? Because see, you are using two coke drums, right? So why you are trying to delay this process? Okay, first you are starting at small temperature and then you are gradually increasing it. With coke, you are also trying to remove what other impurities like water also, which are present in your final residues. Okay, so here you can see that the feed. Okay, your feed is what? Again, the residues obtained from all the processes. Okay, you are treating it into the first of all coking furnace. Okay, it's kind of a preheating, and then you are sending it to the coking unit. So you can see two cokes cokers are used. Okay, from there it goes to the fractionator where your products are further classified. Okay, they are distilled. Like the top product, you get your gasoline, okay, lighter products. Then in the bottom again you get your residue, part of it is recycled. So this was your delayed coker unit. Okay, now the next method is naphtha cracking. Okay, we know that we studied earlier also that naphtha, its major application is for the petrochemical industries also to produce olefin. Other than that, it is also used as what? Solvent. Okay, so what you are doing, you are converting your naphtha into olefins via the cracking process. Now the feedstock, as we talked earlier also, your naphtha, it consists of small hydrocarbons. Okay, so you can see that ethane, propane and butane are taken as the hydrocarbons in your feedstock. Okay, so the cracking process is what? By dehydrogenation. Okay, see here, don't get confused between these processes. Okay, at the end, what is your cracking? You have to break your large molecules into small molecules. Okay, so these are the processes. Okay, these are the mechanism via which this breaking happens. So here you can see that your C2H6, what is it? That is ethane. It cracks to give you ethene plus H2. Okay, so you can see dehydrogenation is occurring here. Now the process is simple. Here you can see the process. The furnace temperature is how much? About 800 to 850 degrees Celsius. So what you are doing, first of all, you are heating your feed in the furnace. Okay, then you are sending it to a fractionator from where you get your top product. Okay, now the impurities are there. Okay, so here you can see that H2, hydrogen gas is formed. With that H2S might be also be present. Okay, because sulfur is an impurity. Okay, these gases are taken now and sent to the acid removal unit. Okay, acid gases. Okay, like H2S. From that you can send it to the sulfur recovery unit. Now quenching. Why quenching is there? See, the furnace temperature is how much? About 800 to 850 degrees Celsius. Okay, so runaway reaction can occur. Okay, it is very hazardous to carry out reaction at this temperature. So with the help of quenching, you are drastically reducing its temperature for safer operation. Okay, now as it is quenched using oil, then you have to send it to dryer also. Now from the dryer you are reducing your temperature. Okay, it goes to compression and pressure, which increases the pressure and reduces the temperature. So you can see the pressure range as 30 to 40 atm. Okay, from this you are sending it to depropanizer. So the propane unit, these other fractions are taken out. So you can see that from the propanizer you are getting your propylene. Okay, what is propylene? Again, it is a olefin. So you can see what are the olefins you are getting. Ethylene, propylene, these are the olefins you are finally getting. The topic in this cracking chapter is catalytic cracking. So we saw there are two major types of cracking, right? Thermal and catalytic cracking. Now the new topic is catalytic cracking. So first of all, what is cracking? Dissociation of heavy molecules into smaller molecules. Now here you are using catalyst. Okay, the use of catalyst decreases the high pressure and high temperature condition. So why you can see that cracking, it progresses at high temperature. But catalyst, what does it do? It reduces that properties. Okay, it reduces the high temperature and high pressure application. Instead you can use catalyst to obtain same process. Now the reaction mechanism is by carbonium ion formation mechanism. Okay, in thermal cracking we saw it was by free radical mechanism. Here you use your carbonium mechanism. Now what is carbonium ion? Okay, it is a positively charged organic carbon ion, right? So any of your alkyl group, okay, it has carbon in it. Now if it is positively charged, that is your carbonium ion. Now what is protonation? Carbonium ion is formed by electrophilic addition, okay, by virtue of Lewis acid, okay, addition of Lewis acid, that is H plus ion. Okay, it is formed by that method and that formation is known as protonation. Now what is the feedstock and operating condition for your catalytic cracking? Of course it would be less than that of thermal cracking, right? So the temperature varies as 450 to 510 degrees Celsius and the feed generally you are taking is vacuum gas oil or the thermal cracking residue. Now catalyst here might vary from different processes. Okay, even in catalytic cracking you have different mechanism by which your cracking process occurs. Okay, so the general catalyst used here are like acid treated silica alumina. Okay, 20 to 80 mesh zeolite catalyst used for FCC. Okay, then metals like iron, nickel, vanadium, copper and platinum, these are the catalysts which you use. Now the reaction mechanism, okay, how catalytic cracking occur. So the first step is the initiation reaction, of course. So what you are doing, your normal paraffin, it is getting converted into olefin. So the first step is what? Conversion into olefin. Now proton shift reaction. This olefin, it reacts with your catalyst, okay. So you can see the carbonium ion formation has occurred, right? Now this carbon ion formation, this carbonium ion, it undergoes cracking, okay. First one was what? Mild cracking. Now this is the actual cracking, okay. So you can see the carbonium ion, now it has converted into olefin and more carbonium ions are formed, okay, but of different species. Now as per the stability of your carbonium ion, okay, the rearrangement occurs. So you can see that what is the stability? Tertiary more than secondary, more than primary. So branching, okay, like you can see the isomer kind of carbonium ion, that has more stability, that is a tertiary form, okay. Now the fifth step is hydrogen ion transfer. So you can see that your carbonium ion, okay, it reacts with again your fellow reactant C8H18. So that was about your catalytic cracking mechanism, okay. In the next lecture we will study about FCC and other such units of catalytic cracking. So that was for today's lecture. Thank you.